Earth had been a part of the galactic community for nearly 50 years. At first, the aliens weren't sure what to make of humans. They were strange creatures, emotional, unpredictable, and surprisingly resilient. When the first invasion came, no one expected Earth to survive, but they did. Then came the second attempt and the third. Each time humanity emerged bloodied but victorious. After the Battle of Proxima Centauri, where Earth forces defeated an armada 3 times their size, other species began to keep their distance. Not out of respect exactly, out of fear. Captain Alex Morgan stood on the observation deck of the EDF Vigilant, staring at the blackness of space. At 42, he had spent more than half his life in Earth's defense fleet. The silver streaks, in his dark hair and the scar across his left cheek, told stories of battles won and friends lost. "Captain, we're approaching boundary marker 16, said Lieutenant Olivia Chen from behind him. Morgan nodded without turning. Status report on the beacon. Fully operational, signal strength at 98%, no signs of tampering. The boundary protocol had been Earth's solution to unwanted visitors, a network of beacons stretching across space, marking clearly where Earth's territory began and ended. The message was simple. Stay on your side, we'll stay on ours. Good, Morgan said. Let's run a full diagnostic anyway, standard procedure. Chen nodded and returned to her station. Morgan continued staring into the void, feeling the familiar knot of tension in his stomach. Boundary patrol wasn't glamorous work, but it was necessary. Peace through vigilance. The ship's AI, Artemis, interrupted his thoughts. Captain, I'm detecting unusual signal patterns near marker 17. Morgan straightened his uniform. Define unusual. Encrypted communications, non-standard frequencies. Origin appears to be just outside our boundary. Can you identify the source? Morgan moved to the command chair and activated the main display. Analyzing patterns. Signature matches. Xalari communication protocols. The knot in Morgan's stomach tightened. The Xalari Empire was the newest power in the sector, expanding rapidly through conquest and intimidation. So far, they had given Earth a wide berth. Everyone did, but rumors had been spreading about Xalari ambitions. Put us on course for marker 17, maximum speed, Morgan ordered, and alert Earth Command. The ship's engines hummed as they changed direction. Morgan studied the tactical display, watching as the computer projected the signal's origin. 3. Vessels maintaining position just outside Earth's boundary. They're being careful, observed Commander Scott Phillips, the ship's second-in-command. Technically, they haven't violated our space. Morgan nodded. Yet. The Vigilant dropped out of hyperspace near marker 17, sensors immediately locking onto 3 sleek purple-hulled ships. Their design was unmistakable. Xalari scout vessels lightly armed but incredibly fast. Open a channel, Morgan ordered. Chen's fingers moved across her console. Channel open. Morgan stood tall. Attention, Xalari vessels. This is Captain Alexander Morgan of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are in proximity to Earth territorial boundaries. State your purpose. The response came quickly. Earth vessel, we acknowledge your communication. We are conducting standard navigational exercises. Your boundaries are noted. Morgan exchanged glances with Phillips. Standard exercises didn't require encrypted communications. Our sensors detect scanning activity directed at our boundary markers. This is considered provocative behavior. A pause then. We apologize for any misunderstanding. We are merely collecting data for navigational purposes. The boundary protocol prohibits unauthorized scanning of Earth beacons. Cease your activities immediately. Another pause, longer this time. Understood, Earth vessel, we will comply. On the display, the Xalari ships began to move away, but they did so slowly, almost defiantly. They're testing us, Phillips said quietly. Morgan nodded. Log everything. I want a full report sent to command. As the Vigilant maintained position, Morgan watched the Xalari ships disappear into the darkness. The encounter had been brief, seemingly insignificant. but experience had taught him to trust his instincts. Something wasn't right. The Zalari were planning something, and whatever it was, Earth needed to be ready. 3 weeks after the encounter at Marker 17, Morgan's fears proved correct. The alarm blared through the Vigilant at 0300 hours, jolting him from a restless sleep. "Captain, to the bridge!" came the urgent call over the comm system. Morgan dressed quickly and rushed to his post. The main screen showed a cluster of red dots moving steadily across the boundary line. 6 Zalari vessels, Captain," reported Lieutenant Chen. "They crossed the boundary 5 minutes ago near Marker 19. They're ignoring all warnings." Morgan's jaw tightened. "Battle stations. Power up defensive systems but hold fire. Contact Earth Command immediately." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency as the ship's systems hummed to full power. Morgan studied the tactical display. The Zalari weren't making any attempt to hide their presence. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from one of the Zalari vessels," Chen said. On screen, the image of a tall, purple-skinned alien appeared. Its 4 eyes blinked independently as it regarded Morgan with what appeared to be amusement. "I am Ambassador Vexnar of the glorious Zalari Empire. To whom am I speaking?" "Captain Alex Morgan, Earth Defense Fleet." "Ambassador, your vessels have violated Earth territorial boundaries. Return to your side of the boundary immediately." Vexnar made a dismissive gesture with one of his 3 arms. "Captain, these boundaries you speak of are merely an inconvenience. The Zalari Empire recognizes no artificial limitations on our exploration and expansion." Morgan leaned forward. "This is not a request, Ambassador. It is an order backed by Earth military protocols. Return to your side now, or we will be forced to take action." "Fascinating," Vexnar said, his tone almost playful. "The stories of human aggression appear to be true. We are simply conducting scientific research. Your primitive markers are of particular interest to our biologists." At that moment, Commander Phillips leaned close to Morgan's ear. "Sir, we've detected unusual activity at Alpha Station. The Zalari may have already been there." Alpha Station was an unmanned research outpost just inside Earth's boundary. Morgan kept his expression neutral, not wanting to give anything away. To the Ambassador, "Whatever your purpose, you are in violation of treaty agreements. Withdraw immediately." Vexnar's upper eyes narrowed. "Very well, Captain. We shall comply. For now. But know this. The Zalari Empire does not recognize your claim to these regions. We will return." The transmission ended abruptly. On the tactical display, the Zalari vessels slowly turned and began moving back toward the boundary. "Follow them until they cross back over," Morgan ordered, "and send a team to Alpha Station. I want to know what they were doing there." 4 hours later, Lieutenant Chen stood before Morgan with a data pad, her face pale. "Captain, the team found evidence of tampering at Alpha Station. The biological sample storage had been accessed. Several human DNA sequences are missing." Morgan felt a chill run down his spine. "They're studying us." "That's not all, sir," Chen continued. "We found these." The screen showed tiny devices, no larger than a fingernail, attached to various systems throughout Alpha Station. "Listening devices," Morgan said grimly. "They're gathering intelligence. The texts say they're more than that. They appear to be designed to collect biological particles, skin cells, hair follicles, anything human that might be present." Morgan stood and faced the viewport, watching as the last Zalari ship crossed back over the boundary. "Inform Earth, Alliance Council immediately." This wasn't a random incursion, it was the first step of something bigger. As the Vigilant maintained its position, Morgan couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of a precipice. For 50 years, Earth's reputation had kept potential invaders at bay. But the Zalari didn't seem intimidated. They had crossed the line, and Morgan knew with grim certainty that they would be back. The Earth Alliance Council chamber buzzed with tension. Representatives from all Earth colonies filled the circular room, their faces grim. At the center stood Admiral William Carter, his weathered face projecting calm authority despite the crisis. "The evidence is clear," he stated. pointing to the holographic display showing Zalari movements across multiple sectors. This was not an isolated incident. The Zalari have been systematically probing our defenses for months. Captain Morgan stood silently at the Admiral's side, his field report having sparked this emergency session. "What exactly did they take from Alpha Station?" asked Counselor Rivera, her voice sharp with concern. "DNA samples, biological data, and communications protocols," Morgan answered. "Our analysis suggests they're studying human physiology for weaknesses." Dr. Samantha Wright, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her expression serious. "I've been analyzing Zalari communications intercepts," she said. "Their language patterns show a recurring theme. They refer to humans as the anomaly and discuss our containment as a strategic priority." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Admiral Carter nodded grimly. "Based on this intelligence, I've authorized a clear message to be delivered to the Zalari High Command. They must cease all incursions into our territory immediately or face military consequences." "And if they ignore the warning?" asked a colony representative. "Then we demonstrate why other species have wisely kept their distance," Carter replied, his voice cold. The meeting adjourned with the Council authorizing increased military readiness across all Earth territories. As the representatives filed out, Morgan approached Dr. Wright. "You found something else, didn't you?" he asked quietly. Wright glanced around before answering. "The Zalari communications, they're not just talking about studying us. They're discussing our elimination. They view us as an existential threat." Morgan frowned. "Why?" "We've never approached their territory." "That's just it," Wright explained. "It's not what we've done. It's what we might do. They've studied our history. How quickly we advanced from planetary travel to interstellar civilization. How we survived multiple invasion attempts. They're afraid of our potential." Before Morgan could respond, his communication device buzzed. The message was brief but alarming. Multiple non-human species were evacuating systems near Earth's boundaries. "So something's coming," Morgan muttered. 3 days later, Morgan's ship received an emergency transmission. The message was broken, distorted by interference. "Earth defense under attack, Zalari forces. Overwhelming, no warning." Lieutenant Chen worked frantically at her console. "It's coming from Listening Post Omega, sir. Near the outer boundary. Set course immediately, maximum speed," Morgan ordered. The Vigilant arrived too late. Where Listening Post Omega had once orbited a small moon, only debris remained. The station's destruction had been thorough and deliberate. "Life signs?" Morgan asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, sir," Chen replied softly. "All 23 personnel are gone." The tactical officer called out suddenly. "Captain, Zalari transmission being broadcast on all frequencies." The screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Vexnar, but his earlier amusement had been replaced with cold determination. "People of Earth, the Zalari Empire has determined your species to be incompatible with galactic stability. Your unpredictable nature and rapid military advancement present an unacceptable risk. The destruction of your outpost was merely a demonstration. Surrender your colony worlds and accept Zalari oversight, or face extinction." The message ended, leaving the bridge. In stunned silence, Commander Phillips was the first to speak. "They've been planning this all along." Morgan nodded, his expression grim, "and they just made their first move." As the Vigilant set course for Earth Command, emergency alerts flashed across all channels. Multiple Zalari fleets had crossed the boundary at different points, moving with purpose toward Earth's outer colonies. The warning had been delivered. The warning had been ignored. And now, the species that had survived by making others fear them would have to prove once again why that fear was justified. Earth's response to the Zalari threat was swift and decisive. Within hours of the attack on Listening Post Omega, the entire defense fleet mobilized. Ships that had been scattered across Earth's territory converged, forming battle groups at strategic points. Commander Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the EDF Intrepid, the largest warship in Earth's arsenal. At 38, Hayes had a reputation as a brilliant tactician. His crew watched as he studied the holographic display showing Zalari fleet movements. "They're splitting their forces," he observed. "3 main attack groups, targeting our outer colonies." "Classic divide and conquer," said his executive officer. "They think we can't defend everywhere at once." Hayes allowed himself a small smile. "Then let's prove them wrong." In the briefing room of Earth Command, Admiral Carter addressed the assembled captains, their faces appearing on screens as they commanded their ships from across the system. "The Zalari believe they understand us," Carter said. "They've studied our tactics, our technology, our biology, but they've overlooked one critical factor. They've never actually fought us." The Admiral activated a secure channel. "It's time to deploy the QDT." A murmur ran through the officers. The quantum displacement technology had been Earth's most closely guarded secret, developed after the last invasion attempt but never used in actual combat. "Will it work against their shielding?" Captain Morgan asked from the Vigilant. "Dr. Rivera is confident it will," Carter replied. "His team has been analyzing the Zalari tech recovered from previous encounters." Scientist Nathan Rivera was not a military man. His nervous energy was apparent as he addressed the fleet commanders from his laboratory. "The QDT works by shifting matter partially out of phase with normal space," he explained. "The Zalari shields are designed to repel energy and physical objects, but they can't stop something that essentially bypasses conventional space. In simple terms," Admiral Carter added, "we can hit them where they think they're protected." On Colony Delta 9, the first major battle erupted. Zalari warships descended on the agricultural world, expecting minimal resistance. They weren't prepared for what awaited them. Earth defense systems hidden beneath the colony's surface activated as the invasion force entered orbit. QDT-modified missiles passed directly through Zalari shields before rematerializing inside their hulls. From the colony's command center, Maria Garcia, Earth's diplomatic officer assigned to Delta 9, watched the battle unfold. She had spent months trying to establish peaceful communication with various alien species. Now she witnessed the failure of diplomacy and the necessity of war. 3 Zalari cruisers destroyed, reported a defense officer. The rest are pulling back. "They're regrouping," Garcia said, her diplomatic training giving her insight into Zalari tactics. "They'll be back with a different approach." In deep space, the Vigilant led a counterattack against a Zalari supply convoy. Morgan's strategy was bold. Instead of engaging the escort ships, his vessels targeted the transports carrying biological weapons intended for use against Earth colonies. "QDT torpedoes locked," Lieutenant Chen announced. "Ready to fire." "Execute," Morgan ordered. The torpedoes launched, invisible to Zalari sensors until they rematerialized inside the target ships. The resulting explosions tore through the convoy, neutralizing the threat. On Earth, the Alliance Council received the first reports of victory. But Admiral Carter tempered their enthusiasm. "This is just the beginning," he warned. "We've surprised them with technology they didn't know we possessed. That advantage won't last." He was right. Within days, the Zalari adapted their tactics. They began using smaller, faster ships to probe Earth defenses, sacrificing them to learn the capabilities of QDT weapons. In his quarters aboard the Intrepid, Commander Hayes reviewed battle reports from across Earth territory. The initial victories had been decisive, but the Zalari were learning, evolving their strategies. "They're more adaptable than we expected," he noted to his AI assistant. The AI responded with cold logic. "Analysis suggests the Zalari expected a 78% casualty rate in their first wave. They are gathering data at an acceptable cost." Hayes stared at the star map showing the advancing Zalari forces. Despite Earth's successful defense, the enemy was still coming. And they were coming in greater numbers. The response had been delivered. The real war was just beginning. The Zalari Emperor Krajan stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Unlike other Zalari, whose purple skin had a smooth texture, the Emperor's was marked with ritual scars denoting his many victories. His 4 eyes narrowed as he watched the holographic display of the battle. 3 more fleets lost, reported his chief strategist, bowing low. The humans' defensive capabilities exceed our projections. Krajan struck the strategist with a swift blow from his middle arm. Unacceptable. Our intelligence indicated their technology was inferior to ours. The humans have concealed their true capabilities, Emperor, said Admiral Vorex, careful to maintain a safe distance. They possess a phase-shifting technology that renders our shields ineffective, the Emperor hissed in frustration. Then I shall lead the conquest myself. Prepare the Imperial Armada. Across the galaxy, other species watched the conflict unfold, with nervous anticipation. Many had suffered under Zilari expansion. None offered direct assistance to Earth, but information began flowing through unofficial channels. On the colony world Nova Terra, now occupied by Zilari forces, Ryan Foster led a group of resistance fighters through underground tunnels. At 35, the former mining engineer had become an unlikely guerrilla leader. The Zilari patrol passes at 2200 hours, whispered his scout. Their force field generators are located here and here. She pointed to a rough map, drawn on the tunnel wall. Foster nodded. We take out those generators and their communication center is vulnerable. Pass the word to the other cells. We move tonight. Back on the Vigilant, Captain Morgan received an unexpected transmission. The sender identified themselves only as a friend of Earth from the Arcturian Confederation, a species that had thus far remained neutral. The Zilari Emperor leads the next wave personally, the message stated. His flagship contains biological weapons designed specifically for human physiology. Morgan forwarded the intelligence to Earth Command, then ordered his crew to prepare for a daring mission. They would attempt to penetrate deep into Zilari-controlled space to gather more information on the Emperor's plans. It's a dangerous mission, he told his assembled officers. Volunteer basis only. Every officer remained seated, their determination clear. Lieutenant Chen spoke for all of them. We're with you, Captain. The Vigilant slipped past Zilari patrols, using improved QDT generators that masked the entire ship. Their destination, a Zilari forward base near the colony of Proxima Centauri. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Wright made a disturbing discovery. Analyzing captured Zilari specimens, she found evidence of extensive genetic modification. They've been altering their biology, she informed Admiral Carter, making themselves more resistant to radiation, extreme temperatures, even vacuum exposure. Carter frowned. Making themselves better adapted for warfare? Not just that, Wright replied. These modifications mirror human natural adaptability. They're trying to copy what makes us dangerous. The implication was clear. The Zilari feared humans because of their ability to survive in hostile environments, to adapt quickly to new challenges. They were attempting to engineer those same traits into their own species. On occupied Nova Terra, Foster's resistance struck with coordinated precision. As Zilari shields fell, colonists who had appeared submissive suddenly revealed hidden weapons. The Zilari garrison, expecting easy control over the human population, found themselves fighting on every street. Foster led the assault on the main communications center. They expected us to give up, he told his fighters. They don't understand humans at all. In deep space, the Emperor's armada approached Earth territory. Thousands of ships, the largest fleet the Zilari had ever assembled. Emperor Krajan's message was broadcast to all human settlements. Your resistance is noted but futile. The Zilari Empire has conquered 37 species across this galaxy. You will be the 38th. The response came not from Earth Command, but from hundreds of colony worlds simultaneously. A simple message repeated in Zilari language. Come and try. As reports reached the Emperor of increasing resistance on occupied worlds, Krajan's rage grew. The humans were not behaving as conquered species should. Instead of submission, they showed defiance. Instead of fear, they demonstrated courage. Zilari had miscalculated badly. They had studied human biology, technology, and military tactics, but they had failed to understand the human spirit. The turning point of the war began in an unlikely place, a small laboratory on Earth's moon base. Dr. Samantha Wright and Nathan Rivera worked tirelessly, surrounded by samples of Zilari technology, captured in recent battles. "Look at this," Wright said, pointing to a microscopic structure displayed on her screen. "Their navigation systems use quantum entanglement to coordinate fleet movements." Rivera studied the display, his eyes widening with realization. "If we could disrupt that entanglement, we could blind their entire command structure," Wright finished. "For 3 days they barely slept, developing what they called the Chaos Virus, a program that could infiltrate Zilari systems and scramble their quantum navigation network." On the Intrepid, Commander Hayes received the virus with explicit instructions. "This needs to be uploaded directly into a Zilari command ship," he told his officers. "It can't be transmitted remotely." Lieutenant Ben Fisher, the ship's tactical officer, asked the question everyone was thinking. How do we get close enough to a command ship without being destroyed? Hayes's answer was Operation Thunderstrike, the most ambitious coordinated attack in Earth's military history. Admiral Carter addressed the fleet from Earth Command. "Every available ship will participate. This is not just about defense anymore. We're taking the fight to the enemy." The plan was audacious. Earth forces would launch simultaneous attacks across 5 sectors, forcing the Zilari to divide their response. Meanwhile, a small strike team led by Captain Morgan would penetrate the Emperor's defensive screen to deliver the virus. As Earth prepared for the offensive, Admiral Carter engaged in a different kind of battle. In a secure communication chamber, he spoke with representatives from species that had thus far remained neutral. "The Zilari won't stop with Earth," he told them. "Today it's our worlds. Tomorrow yours." The Arcturian representative's image flickered on the screen. "Your species has always stood alone, Admiral. You've made it clear you need no allies." "We've survived alone," Carter acknowledged. "But this threat affects all free species. We're not asking for your military support, just information, safe passage through your territories, perhaps medical assistance for our civilians." One by one, the representatives agreed to limited support. Not enough to win the war, but perhaps enough to turn the tide. As Operation Thunderstrike launched, Lieutenant Chen discovered something unexpected in Zilari communication patterns. "Captain," she reported to Morgan as the Vigilant prepared for its mission, "I've been analyzing their transmissions. There's something strange about how they refer to Earth." "Strange how?" Morgan asked, checking his combat gear. "They call us the Awakeners, and there are repeated references to something called the Great Sleep." She looked up from her console. "Sir, I think they're afraid we'll wake something up." Morgan considered this. "Some ancient power? Another species?" "I don't know," Chen admitted. "But whatever it is, it terrifies them more than we do." The Battle of Proxima Centauri would later be described as the most decisive engagement of the war. Earth forces, outnumbered 3-1, executed a complex series of maneuvers that confused Zilari commanders. Using improved QDT technology, Earth ships appeared to be in multiple places simultaneously. Zilari forces found themselves firing at phantom targets while real attacks came from unexpected vectors. Commander Hayes stood calmly on his bridge as the Intrepid took heavy fire. "Maintain course," he ordered as the ship shuddered. "We need to keep their attention. The real mission was happening elsewhere." The Vigilant, using the battle as cover, slipped through Zilari defenses. Morgan led a small team in specialized suits equipped with personal QDT generators, allowing them to phase through the hull of the Zilari command ship. Inside, they moved like ghosts, passing through walls and barriers. When they reached the central computer core, Morgan plugged in the device containing the Chaos virus. "Upload complete," he whispered into his communicator. "Beginning extraction." As they retreated, alarms blared throughout the Zilari fleet. Ship after ship lost navigational control. Carefully coordinated formations dissolved into chaos as vessels crashed into each other or fired upon friendly targets. From the Eternal Dominion, Emperor Krajan watched in disbelief as his mighty armada fell into disarray. "What is happening?" he demanded. His chief technician worked frantically at the controls. Something is corrupting our navigation network, Emperor. It's spreading from ship to ship. Isolate us from the network, Krajan ordered. Too late, the technician whispered. It's already here. The chaos virus spread through the Zalari fleet like wildfire. Ships drifted aimlessly, their navigation systems showing phantom targets and false coordinates. The proud Imperial Armada, once the most feared force in the galaxy, was reduced to confusion and disorder. On the Eternal Dominion, Emperor Krajan raged against his officers. Fix this immediately, he demanded, striking down a technician who dared suggest retreat. But the Emperor's problems extended beyond the battlefield. Throughout the Zalari Empire, news of military failures sparked unrest. Worlds that had been conquered generations ago sensed weakness and began to resist their overlords. Admiral Vorex approached the Emperor cautiously. My lord, we're receiving reports of uprisings on 12 worlds in the inner territories. The provincial governors request military support. Krajan's four eyes blazed with fury. No support. They will maintain control or be executed for incompetence. All forces will continue the assault on human territories. But Emperor, Vorex persisted, our supply lines are stretched thin, and there are rumors that some of our subject worlds are communicating with Earth. The Emperor turned slowly to face his admiral. Rumors? What rumors? That the humans have offered independence to any world that breaks from the Empire. Captain, Morgan hadn't expected to survive the mission to implant the virus. Yet here he was, back aboard the Vigilant, watching as the Zalari fleet scattered in disarray. The virus worked better than we hoped, Lieutenant Chen reported. But the Emperor's flagship has managed to isolate itself from the infected network. They're regrouping a portion of their fleet. Morgan nodded grimly. They're not finished yet. The tactical display showed numerous smaller battles across Earth's territory. On occupied worlds, the chaos in the Zalari command structure had given human resistance fighters like Ryan Foster the opening they needed. On Nova Terra, Foster led a daring assault on the Zalari governor's compound. With most of the garrison called away to support the failing main fleet, the resistance met lighter opposition than expected. The shield generators are down, reported Foster's lieutenant as they crouched behind a barricade. But they still outnumber, us 3-1. Foster checked his makeshift weapon, a mining laser repurposed for combat. Numbers aren't everything. They're confused, disorganized. We know exactly what we're fighting for. The assault began at dawn. The resistance fighters, joined by ordinary colonists armed with whatever weapons they could find, swarmed the compound from multiple directions. The Zalari fought fiercely, but their coordination was gone, their confidence shattered. By midday, the governor's residence was surrounded. The remaining Zalari forces barricaded themselves inside, sending desperate messages for reinforcements that would never come. In a surprising development, a Zalari officer emerged under a flag of truce. But instead of offering surrender terms, he made a startling proposal. I am Sub-Commander Talvak, he announced. I speak for those who oppose Emperor Krajan's war. We seek alliance with Earth forces against the Imperial throne. Foster kept his weapon trained on the Zalari officer. Why should we trust you? Because many of us were conquered just as you were, Talvak replied. We have served the Empire, under threat of extinction. Now we see an opportunity for freedom. In deep space, Commander Hayes received reports of similar developments across multiple fronts. Zalari provincial forces were turning against their imperial masters, sometimes allying with human resistance, sometimes simply withdrawing from the conflict. The Empire is fracturing, Hayes told his officers. But the Emperor still has his core fleet and they remain dangerous. Indeed, Emperor Krajan had consolidated his loyal forces around his flagship. With perhaps a third of his original armada still under his command, he abandoned attempts to hold conquered territory and set course directly for Earth. If we cannot subdue them, we will destroy them, he declared. Activate Project Worldbreaker. Admiral. Vorex paled visibly. Emperor, that weapon has never been tested. The power requirements alone could destroy us as well as the target. Krajan's expression was one of cold determination. Then we will die gloriously. taking the human homeworld with us. As the Emperor's remaining fleet advanced toward Earth, a terrible truth became clear. Krajan wasn't fighting for conquest anymore. He was seeking vengeance, willing to sacrifice everything to ensure humanity's destruction. The Zalari Empire was falling apart. But its dying rage might still prove deadly to Earth. The final battle for Earth began 3 days after Emperor Krajan's remaining fleet entered the solar system. Earth's defense forces had concentrated around the home planet, a last line against the Zalari's desperate assault. Admiral Carter stood in Earth Command's operations center, surrounded by holographic displays showing fleet positions. "The Emperor has abandoned all strategy," he observed. "This is a suicide run." Intelligence. Reports confirmed Carter's assessment. The Zalari flagship had been modified, its entire power system reconfigured to channel energy to a massive forward weapon array, the World Breaker. Analysis suggests it could crack Earth's crust, reported Dr. Wright, who had been studying the limited sensor data available. "If they get close enough to fire," Carter's expression remained calm. "Then we make sure they don't get close enough." The combined Earth fleet formed a defensive sphere around the planet. For the first time in decades, ships from different colony worlds flew together in formation, setting aside old rivalries to protect their homeworld. On the Vigilant, Captain Morgan received unexpected reinforcements. 3 vessels of unfamiliar design dropped out of hyperspace alongside his battle group. "Captain, we're being hailed," Lieutenant Chen reported. It's a Zalari signal." The screen activated to show Subcommander Talvak, now calling himself Ambassador. "Captain Morgan, the Free Zalari provinces offer our assistance against the Emperor." Morgan hesitated only briefly. "Ambassador, your ships are welcome. Take position in Sector 4. As the Emperor's fleet approached, Commander Hayes implemented the final phase of Earth's defense plan. The Intrepid led a strike force directly toward the Eternal Dominion, seeming to offer a direct confrontation. The Emperor couldn't resist such a target. "The humans send their greatest warship against us," Krajan said with satisfaction. "Prepare the World Breaker." But the Intrepid's charge was a feint. As Zalari weapons locked onto Hayes's vessel, dozens of smaller craft launched from hidden positions. Each carried a squad of Earth's best troops, equipped with advanced QDT generators. Morgan led one such squad, phasing his small ship through the Zalari defense screen. "Remember," he told his team, "our objective is the World Breaker's power core. Nothing else matters." Across the battlefield, Ryan Foster commanded one of the boarding parties. The former resistance leader had been chosen for his experience fighting Zalari forces on the ground. "Weird to be working alongside some of them now," his second-in-command commented, nodding toward the Zalari rebels on their team. Foster checked his weapon. "The enemy of my enemy, right?" Inside the Eternal Dominion, chaos reigned as boarding parties materialized throughout the ship. Emperor Krajan barricaded himself on the bridge, demanding that the World Breaker be fired immediately. "We are not yet in optimal range, Emperor," protested his weapons officer. "Fire now," Krajan screamed, killing the officer with a swift blow and taking the controls himself. The massive weapon began to charge, drawing power from throughout the ship. Lights dimmed, artificial gravity fluctuated, and non-essential systems shut down. Morgan's team fought their way through the flagship's corridors, guided by schematics provided by Talvak's rebels. They reached the main power distribution node just as the World Breaker reached 70% charge. "Plant the charges," Morgan ordered. "We have 2 minutes." As his team worked, Morgan received an urgent communication from Foster. "Captain, we've reached the bridge, but the Emperor has locked himself in with the firing controls. We can't get to him in time." Morgan made a swift decision. "Fall back to extraction points. We're taking out the power core." The charges detonated, rupturing the Eternal Dominion's main reactor. Power surged wildly throughout the ship, overloading systems and triggering secondary explosions. On the bridge, Emperor Krajan saw his moment of vengeance slipping away as control panels sparked and died around him. With a final roar of defiance, he activated the World Breaker manually. The weapon fired, but with its power supply crippled, The devastating beam dissipated before reaching Earth. The eternal dominion, pride of the Zilari Empire, broke apart in a series of massive explosions. Morgan's team barely escaped, their shuttle launching moments before the flagship's final destruction. As they returned to the Vigilant, they saw the remaining Zilari forces surrendering or retreating. 3 weeks later, Captain Morgan stood in the Grand Hall of Earth's Government Center. Representatives from Earth colonies and former Zilari worlds gathered to sign the Galactic Cooperation Treaty. Ambassador Talvak approached Morgan, extending his central hand in the human gesture of friendship. "My people have much to atone for." Morgan accepted the handshake. "And we have much to learn about coexistence." The treaty established new boundaries, not just of territory, but of principle. Earth would maintain its defensive posture, but would also open diplomatic relations with peaceful species.